Hey everybody, how's it going? Mike from the Focus Garage here, and in today's video, I want to talk to you about what might have been my greatest motorcycle experience to date. If you guys follow motorcycle racing or anything like that, you may have seen that the Superbikes of America and Yamaha had a racing series at Road America last weekend. The date will be over here or over there somewhere. And over this racing series, they had everything from 1000cc bikes to 400cc bikes. There was the King of the Baggers, everything like that, and they were taking place at, like I said, the Road of America racetrack in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Now, for me and a few friends, what interested us about this was that there was going to be a demo day at the track here. Now, we knew we probably weren't going to be able to race the motorcycles or be able to test drive them or demo them on the racetrack. However, we were very, very interested in being able to see what the demo day was like in an area that wasn't so similar to our hometown around here in the West Chicago suburbs. So we decided to make a day out of it and go up to the racetrack, leave here about 7 in the morning, spend the whole day up there. It's about a 3-hour drive for us to get there from where we are and to check the bikes out and see what they really have to offer. Little did we know, two things, was that one, unlike your typical demo day where it's free to demo the bikes and you just show up and you ride whatever you want, you would actually have to pay to gain access to the property, which coming up I'll tell you a little bit about how cool that was. But two, there was 3 major brands there. There was Harley Davidson, Indian, and Yamaha, all doing demo days of pretty much their entire fleet at the track here. So upon arriving, we actually found out that we had to pay to get in. So you buy general access tickets. And let me tell you, if you've never been to a racing event at Road America, you are missing out. This place is absolutely incredible. The closest thing I can kind of describe it to is like a giant festival. They have roads throughout the park that kind of take you around the outside of the track, but pretty much anywhere there's grass, you can park and set up shop. So if you brought chairs, you can set up chairs. There was people camping with tents, with RVs. There were pit bikes and scooters and mini bikes everywhere roaming the grounds. And then there were also grandstands and bleachers set up around the major straightaways and major turns. So, if you wanted to just kind of go in there, park, and watch races all day, you can go ahead and do that. And it was so cool to be able to see these bikes just zipping by. All day long. It was sensory overload to hear these motorcycles just all day long zipping by us. So we got there, we paid our admission, we get in, we're asking all the staff, where is the Yamaha demo truck? And nobody really knows. They're like, oh, it's, somewhere in the infield or somewhere here, but we don't really know where. So we kind of looked at the map, nothing was on the map, and we made our best judgment onto where it might be. So we get there and we see all 3 major brands there. We've got the Indian, the Harley, and the Yamaha. So we know that we are in for a great day of demos. It's about 10 in the morning. And we are ready to ride some bikes. We brought our gear, bought our helmets. We got our communication systems with our Cardo Pack Talk units ready to rip so we can just kind of chat it up the whole time here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of lay out the bikes that I rode and what I thought of them. So the first bike I rode was the Yamaha MT-09 SP. If you guys don't know what the SP is, it's probably because you live in America like myself and we've never gotten this bike here in the States before. It's pretty much the full performance version of the MT-09. So this bike gets full Öhlins suspension, a quick shifter with auto blipping for up and down, a better display on the bike, and just a host of other things that make this bike a true performer. Now, if you guys have been with the channel for a while, you will have known that I owned a 2018 MT-09, which is the prior model now. It's got the different front end with the quad LED headlight lights. And I'll tell you, if you've owned an older FZ09 or MT-09, this new generation MT-09 feels like an entirely different bike. The ergos feel different. The power even feels a little bit different because they've upped the CCs a little bit. And just the quick shifter and the suspension, I'm telling you, if you told me that this was a different bike, like just from a different manufacturer, I wouldn't have doubted you. The only familiar thing was that 3-cylinder sound. But aside from that, it felt like an entirely different bike, and I really enjoyed riding that. The second Yamaha bike that I rode, and this upsets me because I really, really wanted to ride the Tenere 700, but man, getting on that thing was hard. Everybody was there for that, and it was booked all day. But the second Yamaha I rode was another brand new release. It was the Yamaha R7. So what they did with this bike is they took the engine from the FZ/MT-07 and they put it in a super sport bike. And I'll save my thoughts on kind of the whole replacing the R6 with the R7 in a different video. But the neatest thing that I liked about this bike is it's a very approachable super sport bike for somebody who's never ridden a super sport bike before, or if somebody's trying to get into track riding. The bike is quick, but it's not overpoweringly fast, so that way it's kind of forgiving if you're sloppy on the throttle, or you make some mistakes or something like that. The bike is very forgiving and you're not going to loop it or send yourself off track. This bike is something that you could probably ride around on the streets. It's not super aggressive ergos on it or anything like that. However, super sport kind of hunched up position. If you're a little bit taller, you will find it uncomfortable over longer amounts of time. But this bike is awesome. It feels like a true weapon. The power band is way different feeling than the FZ07 MT07. I'm not sure if it's the gearing that they've done or the engine tuning or whatever, but bike feels proper quick. It's not fast, but it's quick, and I would definitely give that bike a thumbs up as well. If you guys are interested in that one, I can make a full review video about that one also. So after we rode our Yamahas, which I was disappointed about because they only allowed 2 demos for Yamaha and they were guided rides. It was follow the leader. We moved over to Harley Davidson, and the neatest thing about Harley and Indian was that all of their rides were self-guided. So they pretty much had a series of arrows that you follow through the town of Elkhart Lake, and you lead your own demo ride, and that's it there. So on Harley, the first bike that I rode was the Lowrider S. Now, in my circle of friends, I always make the joke that, I talk a lot of smack about Harleys, but at the end of the day, I'd still own another one. And the Lowrider S was one of the ones that was on the list for me. However, after riding this bike, I gotta tell you, I am overwhelmingly disappointed, and I even called that bike pathetic. Some of the main complaints that I have about this was that there's just flat dead spots in the power band, and this is their most performance-oriented softail, and it's got kind of an awkward rider triangle. I know they call it mid-controls, but they're kind of like mid-forwards, and the bars are a little bit high, and it just doesn't feel like something that wants to be thrown around. It doesn't want to lean hard, and it's not even that quick or anything like that. It's peppy, there's torque, but it's by no means fast. It's by no means a handling bike. It has very limited lean angle. It just looks cool. And don't get me wrong, the bike does look awesome, but after riding it, I no longer want one, unless you could buy one for 10 grand, which just isn't the case. These bikes hold their value as much as if they were new, and they're kind of exclusive, so finding one used at a great price just isn't really an option. And after riding it and being completely underwhelmed by it, I can check that one off the list of having no more interest in. The second Harley Davidson that I rode was the Pan America, and I am also another bike here that I was so excited to see and ride because it is brand new. And let me tell you, this is a polar 180 opposite of the Lowrider S. The Pan America was absolutely incredible, and Harley Davidson knocked it out of the park with this bike. This bike, and this is so funny because all the other reviewers are saying this, feels nothing like a Harley Davidson. And to some, that's good, some that's bad. And what I mean by that is you don't have this sloppy, lumpy, potatoey V-twin. You don't have a bike that doesn't want to lean. You don't have a bike that makes all this torque but no horsepower. This bike is fast, proper fast. It's not even quick. It makes 150 horsepower, and it's, right in line with a 1290, Super Adventure Duke, whatever it is, and the BMW GS 1250. The coolest thing about this bike is that we were talking to somebody that owns a GS 1250, and he was saying that this Harley is better than his 1250 in every measurable way. So I rode the Pan America, and it's quick. There's power everywhere through the rev range. This bike feels like it wants to handle well. It's got a plethora of modern electronics and just features, everything that you can imagine. It's got an adjustable windscreen. It's got the squatting suspension. I can make a whole video about that bike, but the main takeaway from that bike is that it was awesome. Harley knocked it out of the park, and I really do hope that they're able to sell those and overcome that brand stigma that kind of prevents them from getting new sales, especially in a market like that where nobody really knows them. But if you're skeptical of that bike, at least do yourself the service of riding one and checking it out. It is awesome. And finally, moving on to Indian. What we checked out over there is I've been seeing all the YouTubers checking out the Indian Chief, the Chief Bobber, the Super Chief, all that. And I get it, I'm not highline enough. I don't have 100,000 subscribers. They didn't send me out to their event. I didn't get to demo ride it there. So along with the rest of the normies in the world, I had to wait till now to be able to ride the new Chief. And let me tell you, oh my gosh. So I started off by riding the Chief Bobber, which is kind of their more stripped down, blacked out looking one. Doesn't have the nice infotainment, but it's got the 111, everything like that. So I rode this bike. First of all, holy cow, does it sound great. And secondly, it's better than any Harley softail bike. And this is with the 111, and just this one was bone stock. This bike had no right wanting to handle that well. Like, this bike was super eager to lean. Like, I had no problem dragging peg on both the left and the right side. It was peppy, it was torquey, it sounded good. The seating position was natural and just comfortable, and it was great. So great to the fact that Indian had their whole lineup of bikes when we got back. I'm talking like the Challenger, the FTR, the Scout, everything like that. And I went for my second ride and I hopped on the Super Chief Limited because it has the 116 and that new modern little infotainment touchscreen that has the maps and the configurable gauge cluster and all that. And after riding the Chief Bobber, I needed to see what the top of the line Chief was all about. And it blew me away even more. For only having like a 12 to 15 torque difference, that 116 that's in the Super Chief Limited makes 120 foot-pounds of torque, and you feel that difference. This bike, for a V-twin, pulls all the way to the top. There's no hesitation. This thing is 740 pounds, and I was able to throw this thing around. I'm talking about cornering through sweepers at pretty spirited paces here, and this bike just kept begging for more. I'm telling you, like, it blew my expectations away, especially having been exposed to Harley Davidson and the Softail and even the Harley Davidson touring bikes and having owned and ridden those. I'm telling you, this new Chief is an incredible bike. Not to mention the modern electronics that you've got on this screen here with the ride modes, with the maps built in, with the phone integration, the wind protection, everything like that. Like, this bike is phenomenal. Like, the only thing I can knock Indians on is I'm not the biggest fan of their styling and the design of their bikes. And both Indians that I rode had less than 200 miles and there were build quality issues, basically meaning that the tanks on both of them I was able to take and kind of wiggle. They were loose seeming. And every bump I hit, I heard from the Triple Tree area just stuff rattling around. I don't know if it was unsecured wiring harnesses or just whatever. And I get it. A lot of people will say, well, they're demo bikes that have lived rough lives. Sometimes that is the case, but these were brand new bikes. They both had like 120 and 150 miles respectively. So there's no reason these brand new bikes should be making these noises like this. That was the only things I could knock them on. But I will tell you, you'd be hard pressed to buy a Softail over either model of the Chief. I just don't understand why you would do that unless you're a Harley Davidson loyalist. These bikes are far superior. So with all that being said, my takeaway here is that I want to give you with is that if you haven't been to a demo day ever, I highly recommend trying it. The biggest reason to do so is that as long as you're a licensed rider, you can get on bikes that you wouldn't normally think to ride. Things that are outside of your comfort zone, things that you wouldn't even consider as something you'd be interested in. And you get to ride these bikes and you can be impressed and amazed by them and take away something that you would have never got to experience before. Being able to do this at a world-renowned racetrack around like-minded enthusiasts with the sounds of super sport bikes and big baggers and a stunt show happening all around you all day long is a fully immersive experience that you just cannot compare to anything else. So I just kind of wanted to take you guys along that journey with me, give you my thoughts on the demo bikes that we tried out, and just give you my overall perspective on everything. If you guys enjoyed this video, or if you want to see me cover in detail any more of the bikes that I rode, let me know in the comments down below. I will definitely be willing to answer any and all questions about that. That's going to wrap it up for this one. This is Mike from the Focus Garage signing off, and I will catch you guys in the next video.